The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to today's presentation on New School Security Awareness Training. I am Greg Crass. I'm the Chief Success Officer for KnowBe4, and I'll be running through a brief product demonstration that goes over the features of the KMSAT platform. So before I get started, this is a just me talking type of webinar, but that does not mean that you cannot participate. If you have any questions that you'd like answered at any time during the webinar, you should have a tool in your GoToWebinar control to where you can ask questions, and there are a team of people behind the scenes that are answering those questions as we go through. And at the end of the presentation, I'll take a few minutes to go over the most commonly asked questions and answer those for everyone to hear. Without any further ado, let's jump into a few quick slides and talk a little bit about KnowBe4. First of all, we broke 15,000 customers last month. We are the world's most popular security awareness training platform. We're based out of Tampa Bay. We're all made up of ex-IT professionals and AV industry. We built an antivirus tool, sold it successfully out in the market, and that's why we started building KMSAT, because we realized that the problem isn't always technical controls. You have to have ways to control those people that are sitting in your organization to make sure that they're not your risk, because if you can get through the technical controls, it only takes one time for a user to do something silly, and then you have a big problem. So we've won 2 consecutive Inc. 500 awards, and we've recently been incorporated into the Leaders Quadrant with Gartner. So what exactly do we do here? So it's all about security awareness training, and we do a lot of focus on phishing, and because this is the most common attack vector that's being used by the bad guys out there right now. So what I've got up right now is a slide that shows what it looks like if you just take your organization, if you've got no security awareness training, and you run a baseline phishing campaign. And we did this over our user base, and we found that it's very common that you'll see a 16% or higher baseline phish-prone percentage. And what this graph is illustrating is what happens when you're using the KnowBe4 platform to manage that problem. And what we do is we go through, we always recommend you start with a baseline phishing assessment to find out where your users are. Go through a period of training, and we have lots of different ways that you can train your users, some that are general security awareness, some that are very industry specific and compliance related type training. And then what's really interesting about this graph, and this is based off of our users, is that not only does that number go down, but it stays down over time. And that's because when you're using this platform, you're keeping your users aware of the ongoing problems of phishing and other types of threat actors that are out there. And by keeping your users aware of that, they're making more security conscious decisions in their day-to-day operations inside the organization. And how that's all done is through our platform. So let me bring up our platform. It's all web-based. Everything is hosted up within the cloud. So there's only a few optional components that you can install inside your network, and I'll touch on those. But otherwise, this is the screen where you're going to manage everything using KMSAT. So the first thing you see when you log in as an admin is you see this. It's the product dashboard. Starts off with phishing. You can see details about the last 6 months of phishing tests that you've done. You can see what types of failures you've had. You can see the trend line for your phish-prone percentage. Below that, we have other statistics. We have our Phish Alert button statistics. This is one of those optional pieces of software. It's a plugin that works with Outlook. It works with Office 365. It works with Outlook Web Access, and it gives your users a method of reporting on what they think to be phishing emails. If it's simulated, it gives them a congratulations, it records that in the console. If it's not simulated, it packages up that email with all of the headers and forwards it along to whatever incident response team that you have specified. A little further down, you can get some details about the different training campaigns that are ongoing. So you can have multiple training campaigns going at the same time. So if you have different users that have different training requirements, you can see it from there. So let's jump ahead, and I want to touch on ASAP because this is usually where we start all of our new customers out, is with the Automated Security Awareness Program. So this starts off with a brief questionnaire. It's got about 20 questions depending on how you answer them. And the result of filling that out is you end up with your own customized security awareness program. And it's geared for most organizations that have nothing in place. So it starts off with the basics, which is engaging the stakeholders. And this program is going to walk you through the steps of, what does it take to get company buy-in? What does it take to get, the program kicked off in the organization? Takes you through the process of whitelisting our servers so that, the simulations can get through, the process of getting users in there. It even goes into the details of selecting your primary training modules. And we'll make suggestions based off of the questions that you answered at the beginning. So this is the program that you'll use to run and use the console. And it comes in both the list view, it's got a calendar view so that you can actually schedule out how things are going to be done, so you can make sure that you're actually adhering to what the best practices are for the platform. And then you can download this as a PDF and you can give it to the various people in your organizations that may need to track or know what exactly there is to expect when they roll out security awareness training within the organization. So the first thing you're going to do with the console is you've got to get users in the console. We need to be aware of who it is that we're going to be phishing and who we're going to be training. So we can go into the user section. You can see that we have a list of all the users in the consoles. We break out those users into different groups. We have the ability to import users one at a time. We can import users using a CSV file if you wanted to. We have an Active Directory integration. This is that other optional piece of software. If you want to, you can install this in your network and it'll actually push the users over. It's really nice because that means that whenever you create a new user in the Active Directory, it creates it in the console and then it can go through the various workflows that you've set up to do automatic onboard training as well as automated phishing that you may have set up for your organization. And then there's a few other options underneath of users, like security roles. So if you want to give someone in HR the ability to log in and just see the results of the phishing or just see the results of the training, the different security roles can be set up so that you can give that sort of access. In addition to this, we can drill down into any one of these users. I'll grab one of these users here. I'll grab Fritz. You drill down into Fritz, you can see the details of everything that's happened with an individual user. So at the top here, we see the phishing results for Fritz. And on all of the phishing results, you have different types of failures that can occur. So each one of these lines indicates a phishing test where Fritz had some sort of activity on that. Below that, you have details of the training that Fritz has gone through. And then below that even further, we have a timeline of all the events that have ever happened with a particular user. So it's a good way to see now, okay, what has this user done? So let's drill down into the phishing details. So to go to the phishing tab, I'm going to drill into our campaigns. Campaigns here, I mentioned earlier that we like to do a baseline campaign. This is where you phish all your users. We recommend it being a blind test and that you don't tell anybody that you're going to do it. And the purpose of that is to find out what types of failures you have and where does your organization sit. You need to know where you are as an organization so that you can know, oh, is this actually working? Am I lowering my threat surface with my users? So when we drill down into a phishing test, I have across the top, I have all the different types of failures that can occur. I have opens, which just is a tracking of people that have opened the message. That doesn't count as a failure. Then you go over into clicked. That means they clicked a link. We have replying, so we can actually track if a person replies to a phishing email. This is good for CEO fraud type events. Attachment opens, we have several different types of attachments to the platform, Office documents, HTML, PDFs. We can track to see if the users are opening the attachments. On the Office documents, we have the option of sending macro-enabled documents, so we can see if the users are actually enabling macros on those documents. We have, once a user clicks on something, they end up on what we call a landing page. And a landing page is what happens when they click, And some of the landing pages we have are instructional, saying this is what you did wrong. And others go one step further and they actually look like some sort of a login page. And what we're doing there is we're tracking to see, are the users susceptible to a credential phish, where they're just giving away their credentials to anybody that asks and sends them an email. Then we have vulnerable plugins. We scan the browser to see if there's any known vulnerabilities in the plugins that are loaded. And then we have an exploited option, which is, again, it's an option that you can enable on the landing page where it will actually present the user with a Java applet. And if the user executes that Java applet, we'll actually pull additional information. So this is the high-level report of what you can get on there. And you can drill down on any one of these things and see what it is, what was the attachment that was opened. If I wanted to, I could look at a particular user and see what the message was that was sent to the user. So I can say, okay, this was the message that was sent to Jolynn here. So let's drill down into what does it take to actually set up a phishing campaign. You have a few things that you need to specify when you do a phishing campaign. The important things are who's it going to be sent to, what are you sending, and what happens when they actually fail on something if they click on it. So that's the recipients, the email template, and the landing page. So with that said, let's talk about the email templates for a moment. Built into the console, we have at this point 1,936 templates, and they're broken up into several different categories. And these are templates that we maintain and we update on a regular basis. And you can drill down into any one of these. Let's say baseline templates. These are templates that we suggest to send as your baseline. So you can see over on the right, these are the baseline. So if I click on one of these, let's say I do the APD, not to be confused with ADP template, I can preview that and I can see what this looks like, and this is what would be sent out. Or we have other ones like a UPS delivery notice. So I can drill into that and say, okay, that's what that looks like. We have other areas like current events. We also have a category in here that's specifically designed for reply to. So there's no links or attachments in the email. We're really just fishing to see if the users will reply with information to the tests. And then there's other ones in here that are specific to language. So we scroll down the list, you can see we have a lot of these templates that are available in many different languages so that you can target your users in their own native language with the phishing template. On any one of these templates, let's go ahead and drill down on one of these banking ones. I'll take the Wells Fargo one here. You can go in and modify the template. So, all right, so now I'm looking at the template, and you can see we've got this nice WYSIWYG in here, and I can grab it and I can say, let's add the guy's name inside here. So, Dear, and we'll put first name in here, put that on there, and say, okay, that's my template. And I'm going to say that that's a little bit more difficult now because it's customized. I can save that off. And now that goes into my own personal templates over here. I can look at this. I can preview that template and I can say, oh, okay. But I'm logged in as a user right now whose name is Aaron. So it's filling that out that way. Other thing that I can do in here is I can say, okay, when they fail, what landing page comes up? So I'm going to specify a specific landing page on here. And I'm going to specify what we call SCI landing page. And our SCI landing page, that stands for Social Engineering Indicators. And what that does is when a user fails and clicks on it, the page that comes up, you'll see it here in just a moment, will actually show them not only that they failed, but it actually includes the very message that was sent to the user. And all of the items that they should have identified, what we call red flags, are highlighted now within the message so that I can see as the user, oh, okay, I should have noticed this. And if I mouse over any of these red flagged items, it has the details about, oh, all right, so I should have hovered that link because it didn't really go to Wells Fargo. Now, and what's this one here? Okay, so this is a call to action within the email. That's always a good sign that it's a phishing email. Phishing emails are always going to call the user to do something. Now, and then further on down here, we can look at the, okay, it's a Wells Fargo. Do you normally get Wells Fargo statements at work? So the whole point of this is that it's a point of failure training for the end user that shows them whatever email they got and exactly what it is that they should have identified. Beautiful thing about the SCI type of instructions are they're tied to the template. So no matter how many different templates you send to your users, they're always going to see the email that they got in particular. So you could select 25 or 100 different templates that you're sending out to your users, and you don't have to keep track of what page that they're going to go to when they click on it. It just automatically includes the original email. So talking about landing pages, we can drill into these. So Our default landing page looks something like this. It's just okay, hey, you failed a phishing test. We take a kind of a light touch approach with this that says, okay, this is what you need to do. The SCI is another type of landing page. And I mentioned the credential phishes. So here's an example of what an Office 365 credential phish might look like, where it's actually coming up and showing the user what looks like an Office 365 login. If they enter in their information here and hit submit, we'll track that as data entered as a type of failure. Note, we do not actually keep any of the data that they enter because of security reasons. So that's what they get when they click. That's where we talked about what gets sent. So let's talk about how you actually set up a phishing campaign within the console. So we do create campaign. And when you do that, we're going to give it a name. You set who do you want it to go to, and you can see all the different user groups that have been set up in your console. These groups can be managed manually. You can do it ad hoc where you put users in there. We can synchronize groups from your Active Directory. And we also have the ability, and we've got them named down here, of creating what we call smart groups. And smart groups are criteria-driven groups where you can say, all the users that are in a certain location automatically get put into this group. You can actually get very specific with smart groups. You can say, give me all the users that have failed a phishing test in the last 2 months. So you can really drill down. I'll show smart groups a little later on in the demonstration. But in this case, I just want to phish my salespeople. So I'm going to select my sales group. I'm going to say, okay, when do I want to do it? Let's do it all right now. How long do we want to track that? Do I want to track the replies? And then I can specify what email templates I want to send. So I'm going to just go with let's say I wanted to do a brand knockoff template. And one of the features we have is we can do a fully randomized campaign where all of the different emails shown in this list get randomly sent to the users. And that keeps down on the prairie dog effect, where you get someone jumps up and says, don't click on that email from FedEx. Well, not everybody got the email from FedEx. So you're getting an actual true test of your users when you use a full random. Random means everybody gets the same email, but it is random from this list. And then you can specifically say, I really want to send everybody the free Chromebook one. And you can preview all the templates from here. You can also do other types of filtration inside of this. So if we do full random and we say, look, these my salespeople, they've gone through a lot of training. I only want to send them 4- and 5-star templates. You can narrow it down to that. You can set the phish link domain, which is what domain it is when they hover over the link. What landing page do they see? Use the default that's associated with the template, or you can override it and use any of the other landing pages that have been set up in the console. You have that Java exploit that I talked about earlier as an option that you can set. And then you have this concept of adding your clickers, which actually incorporates all of your different failure types to a specific group. So that if you want to find out who your higher risk users are, you can create a group and put those users inside of that. So we're just going to have a clickers group and we can put them in there. And if we create the campaign, it'll actually set it up and it'll run at whatever time you have scheduled. And if you've scheduled it to run weekly, it'll just fire off every week at the same time. And that way, if you go into the console when you first set it up, you can set up a phishing campaign that'll run for the rest of the year or even longer and just constantly keep your users on their toes and give you some feedback of how good they're doing. So that covers the phishing. Let's talk about training. And before I actually go into the training tab, I want to talk about our mod store, because when you're doing training, one of the most important things is what do you have to train your users with? We keep all of our training materials in what we call the mod store, which is for module, and it's the largest collection of security awareness training in the industry. And I always have to look whenever I go in here to see what the number is. So we're at 499 right now pieces of content inside of this, and that's broken up by our different types of modules. So we have training modules, we have games, we have images, which are things that you might print out and put in the boardroom or put in the break room. We have videos, and we have newsletters and security docs. So we have all types of different content available inside of the mod store that you can use. And all of that is broken up by our different subscription levels. So we have a silver level, which gives you just the basics of content. So you can see there's only 8 items there. You get into our gold and platinum level 2 items. There's 52 different pieces of content in there. And then our diamond level is everything. There's no limit. And you have access to everything. And you can see over here, we have different publishers. So not only at the diamond level, you get access not only to the content we make, but you get access to all the content from the security awareness company, all the content from Securable.io. And then just recently, we added all the content from AwareGo that makes sense for your users to go through. And the AwareGo content is very nice, produced short videos. So those are good ongoing training campaign things that you might send out on a monthly or quarterly basis, just to keep the users up to date with what's going on and make sure that they don't forget about the fact that they are one of the biggest risks in the organization when it comes to IT security. So once you've selected the content that you want from the mod store, you're going to go into your training. You're going to set up training campaigns. It works very similarly to the way phishing works in that it's all about campaigns, and I can drill down into an ongoing campaign. So this is one that's actually completed, and I can see these are the courses that were set up, and I can see everybody that was assigned has completed it. You can see the course completion schedule down at the bottom, and I can drill down into an individual course if I wanted to and see who's done what on there. So setting up a training campaign, very similar to setting up a phishing campaign. We're going to specify who it's going to go to and what they're going to do. So if I wanted to, let's say I was going to do an onboarding type of campaign, I could do all users, and I could select any one of the courses that I've picked out of the mod store. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, GDPR. This is something that everybody should be aware of now, particularly if you're working with any companies in Europe. So we're going to push everybody through a GDPR training campaign. I'm going to give everybody, let's say everybody gets 3 weeks. That's the default if you do a relative duration. And you can see I have this option of automatically enroll users that are added to the above groups in the futures. That's nice for that onboarding. That works really well with the Active Directory integration, so that right now you might have 50 users that are in your all users. Well, tomorrow when you hire a new person, you put them in the console, they'll automatically be enrolled in this training, and they'll get 3 weeks to complete this. When they're done, I can put them in a different group. I can pull them out of a group if I wanted to. And during that whole process, I've got all of these different notifications that can automatically fire off. I've got welcome notifications after they've enrolled, before they're due, and then when they're complete. So let's say I want to do an after enrollment. The nice thing I can do with this is I can not only let the user know, but maybe I want to nudge the user's manager and say, hey, these guys haven't completed, and I could set this to repeat. Now, the whole concept of this console, one of the big driving items of why it's built the way it's built, is it's something we want to be able to allow administrators to set things up, get it all going, and then have it automatically take care of business. And that's done through several different workflow processes. This moving in between groups that's shown down here at the bottom is a big one. And our smart groups, which I mentioned earlier, is another way that we do workflow. So I'm actually going to take a moment to jump ahead and talk about those smart groups. And by doing so, I'm going to do it by actually bringing up an example of a smart group that we have here in this console. So this is an example of a smart group here that is designed to say, all right, user has not completed any of these particular courses. So this means I want users that have not completed the CEO fraud course ever, and they're a member of the management group. So the nice thing about the smart group is the moment the manager actually takes the course, they're no longer a member of this group because they actually have taken the course. So if you took a person in your organization in Active Directory and you moved them into a manager's group, the next time AD synchronized, it would pick that up over here in the console, and they'd be a member of this group. And if you had automatic onboarding training for your managers, then they'd be enrolled in that training. Once they completed the training, it would take care of, they wouldn't have to do it again. If I wanted to, I could say, you know what, they need to redo this every year. And what that'll do is it'll show me only the people that haven't done this training in the last year. So that way, users will automatically be enrolled in training on their 1-year anniversary of having taken the course. So that way, it's not like the typical, all right, it's January, everybody has to do their training, even the people that started in December and just finished their training. You're actually keeping the training relevant to when they last did it. If you want to do all the training at the beginning of the year, that's fine too. You can specify a specific date. So smart groups is a great way to automate the process of getting people enrolled in training, It's a good way to also identify what people need to do additional phishing tests. It's also a good way to run reports. You can actually do all of your ad hoc reports through smart groups because you can actually find out what's going on. And they can get pretty advanced. So this is an example of a smart group that's looking for anybody that's failed the phishing test after they've done training and has a specific manager on here. So you can see the details on there. And because it's so complex, we actually have a visualization that's available on some of these that we can bring up that shows you a graph of what it looks like on the users. So let's jump back over to our various types of phishing and phishing tests. In addition to our traditional phishing, we also have vishing, which is our voice phishing. So the system actually can call the numbers, phone numbers that you have in the system for the users. And then we're looking to see if the user can be convinced to enter their PIN or other type of sensitive information. We have a USB drive test. This is where we provide files that you can put onto a thumb drive and leave around your office. You know, take a file, name it something juicy like 2018 salaries, put it in the break room, and then if a user opens up that file and runs the macro, we can actually collect a bit of information about that user and their workstation. Another feature that we have here in the console is we have ADA, which is our artificial intelligence-driven agent. This is a new beta program where we actually have an artificial intelligence that identifies the best way to phish your users. And not only will it do traditional email phishing, but it'll do phishing where it sends an email, follows up with a text message, maybe it leaves a voicemail, and it's going to go through and really test the user, and it's targeting the users based off of the user's other activities that they've done in the past to find out what they're most susceptible to. So this is an ongoing project that we're building, is this ADA platform. Last little piece I want to touch on is we have another tool that's built into the console. It's actually a free tool that's available. It's called Second Chance. It's a small component that you can install on users' workstations. And what it is if they're using Outlook and running on Windows, if they click on a link in an email, or they click on a link from an attachment that's sourced in an email, it'll actually bring up a prompt that shows them the link that they clicked on and tells them, hey, are you sure you want to go there? It's really nice because it does just give that user a second chance of, oh, did I really want to go there? And is this link something I need to do? It doesn't actually block the user from doing anything, but it gives them that second chance. And it also gives you, as the administrator, a way to drill down and see the activity of your users in your organizations to see what they've done. So this has been a lot of data really quickly. I know I've only got 30 minutes to go through the console. I could talk for hours. So I'm going to go ahead and drop out of this demo here, go back to the slide deck for a moment, and I'm going to take up some of the questions that have come up during the demonstration. All right, so I mentioned this a little bit during the demonstration that we have different subscription levels. We have our silver, our gold, our platinum, and diamond levels, and you can see the different feature sets that are available under each of those subscription levels. One of the big differences is definitely at the diamond level is that all-you-can-eat training. Those 499 modules that we have available for the users. This is where you have the ability to pick pretty much anything you want. It's also where you get a lot of the more specialized training like OWASP training or some of the more detailed PCI compliance or HIPAA training. Some of that's available also at the platinum level. Going into the training a little bit more, we have the breakdown of what modules and what content are available at the different levels. So you can see silver just touches on it with 3 modules. It's your bare bones. Gold is going to give you a decent distribution. It's the same as platinum for your training. The big difference between your gold and platinum isn't in training so much as it is in platform features. Those social engineering indicators I talked about earlier, the ability to do smart groups, that sort of content is all in the platinum level. And then you can see once you go over to diamond, pretty much everything doubles and then some, because now you get access to things like games, standalone videos, the posters, the images, and all of the different security documents, which are really good if you have an ongoing campaign where you're wanting to send out some sort of information to all your users on a monthly basis. We've got a lot of pre-written content that you can use in your security awareness program. And drilling down into that a little bit further, these different items that we get for the security awareness training, we've got all of these different items available in that mod store, and they're all available to preview. So even if you have just a demonstration free account, you can go in there and preview the content so you can see what's available to share with your users. So let's take a minute here and actually answer some questions that have come up during this slide deck. All right, so first one, okay, this always comes up, is price. What are we looking at? What does this cost? So the console is priced per user per year, and it's a sliding scale. So depending on the size of your organization, and just depending on what subscription level you go with, is the price. So as an example, if you're in the around 500 users and you want to go with Diamond, it's about $15 to $16 per user per year. So it's an annual cost, and that's a all you can eat type of price. So if you want to fish your users once a month, you want to fish your users 4 times a month, it does not matter. You can do that if you want to train them on one piece of content or 50 pieces of content. You can do as much as you want with the console. We have best practices we suggest. I usually recommend fishing no less than once a month. Ideally, you could fish your users twice a month. There's no such concept of, within reason, of overfishing your users, because how much phishing email actually makes it through your filters? Technology controls they're usually only good for about 95 to 99% coverage. That sounds really good until you realize lots of users receive hundreds of emails a week. So that means they're getting 2 or 3 things a week that they probably shouldn't be getting. So one additional phishing test in there, all it's going to do is keep your users on their toes. All right, next question here. What if I'm using my own LMS? Okay, so there are some customers out there that already have deployed their own learning management systems. They don't want to have to use another learning management system for their security awareness training. That's fine. You can use all of the content we have available is available to be downloaded in a SCORM format. So you can plug it into your own LMS and then just use our platform for the phishing and the vishing and the other types of testing, and then maintain your platform for the training purposes. How do the users log into the console? Again, there are several different ways you can do that. You can assign usernames and passwords in the console that are tied to their email address. You can use passwordless login so that when your users log in to take their training, they actually just get a one-time or a multi-time use link that they click on, and that logs them into the console. You can do a SAML authentication scheme. So if you've already got an identity provider out there, they use that data to log in. So depending on how you want to deploy the platform, all of those features are available at all levels. All right, next question we're going to take, and this is going to be the last question I take over the air, has to do with how do we make sure that everything gets through to the end user? All right, so the first thing that we always recommend doing before you deploy KnowBe4 is set up your whitelisting. And there's a bunch of documentation about that, and support will help you with that process of making sure that our phishing emails are going to get through. Now, there's a lot of work that goes through on our platform to make sure that the phishing emails that get through don't have any chance to be weaponized or anything like that. All of the links are rewritten. You can't put your own attachments. Everything is fixed so that you know that the stuff that's getting through is all safe and it's just what you want your end users to receive. So there is a process that you go through to set that up. So I've gone 5 minutes over my time here, which is pretty good for me. And I'm going to leave the webinar open. So if you've got questions that didn't get answered or anything, you can continue to ask those. Or you can send an email to sales@knowbe4.com, and they'll be able to send you any information that you may have. And the webinar will continue to run as long as there's questions that are being asked. Those people will stay behind the scenes and answer those questions for you. Thank you, and have a nice day.